my name is Sarah, and today we're talking about Winter by Marissa Meyer. So Winter is the fourth and final book in the Lunar Chronicles series, which, if you are not already aware, is a post-World War IV sci-fi retelling of popular fairy tales. The first three books are retellings of Cinderella, Red Riding Hood, and Rapunzel, and this fourth and final book is a retelling of Snow White. So like my previous reviews for Cinder, Scarlet, and Cress, this will be a spoiler-free review for Winter, but as it is the fourth and final book in this series, there will be spoilers for the previous three books. So if you have not read the first three books in this series, I would suggest you stop watching now, but I will link all of those spoiler-free reviews below for you to check out. So in this fourth and final installment of this series, everything that we've been building up to in the first three books is finally coming to its head. While Scarlet, Winter, and Jason are hanging out in the capital city on the moon, Cinder, Cress, Thorn, Wolf, Prince Kai, and Eco are finalizing their plans to get to the moon and overthrow Queen Levana for good. Much like Cress, I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a fantastic conclusion to the series, which made me so excited because I have read so many series in the last couple of years where they have started out so strong and then for whatever reason I feel like the conclusion was unsatisfactory, and that was not the case at all with Winter. I loved everything about it. Everything we got in bits and pieces in Cress that I absolutely loved, we get even more in full force in this final installment. We have so many more moments where we see the crew back together and we get to see even more how they are really just becoming this quirky but also completely fantastic family. We see Cinder finally truly coming to grips with who she is and what this means for the rest of her life. We also see the rest of the characters standing by her even when she is at her lowest of lows and feels like the last thing in the world she can do is overthrow Queen Levana and be a queen. Obviously, just like with Cress, one of my absolute favorite things about this book is the characters. From our 4 heroines to the men they are paired up with to Eiko and Queen Levana, and just everyone is so well developed and they're so unique in their personalities, but I love to see how with their unique personalities they all come together and one person's strength lends to another person's weakness, and their various backgrounds and histories and skills just give them everything they need to pull this off. I love how each of the different characters, from Cress doing her hacking thing to Prince Kai having to still go along with the whole marriage alliance to Wolf's family being from Luna and all of these different things, they all play such a pivotal role in bringing this plan to pass. And I just love that message of teamwork and how important it is for all of them to work together to make something like this happen. So the main new character that we really get to know in this fourth and final installment is Winter. We got little bits and pieces of her in the end of Cress as she interacted with Scarlet, but we get her in full force in this fourth and final installment, and she is just a delightful character. Winter is just a fantastic, super fun character. I love her sweetness and her personality, and having read Fairest and learning about her history with Queen Levana and how she became the queen's stepdaughter and all this stuff, I just love how we get to know her even more in the story, and I love how much she cares about other people despite who she's been raised by and the situation that she's been put in and all of these other things, and she's just a really fun, really sweet, kind of hilarious character. I love the relationship between her and Jason and the friendship that they have, and really I just love all of the couples in this series. I love how, because all of the individual characters are so different, all of their different relationships are so different, and it's just really neat to see how the different strengths and weaknesses that come into play in the larger context of the crew also come into play in the individual relationships we see. But forever and ever and ever, Cress and Thorn will be my absolute favorite. I love them to pieces, guys. I loved them in Cress even when they weren't really a couple, and I just love them even more in this book. They're just the cutest forever and ever and ever. I love their different personalities and how they connect as a couple, and it's just, I love them. They are just so adorable and wonderful and sweet together, and yeah, I love everything about them. One of the things I love about what Marissa Meyer did with the series is seen so clearly in the character of Winter, and that is how she has taken these iconic, super well-known fairy tale heroines, these princesses like Rapunzel and Cinderella and Snow White, that largely because of Disney movies and things like that have been viewed for so long as this like unattainable, perfect thing. And I love how she takes all of those characters and just totally flips them on their heads. She turns Cinderella into a cyborg. She turns Rapunzel into a unsocialized, kind of a naive computer genius hacker. And she turns Snow White into a black woman with mental health issues. And it's just so cool. Like, I just love all of the little messages about diversity and other things that come into play throughout the series just because of who she made these characters to be. And I just love how she's able to take these iconic stories that everyone knows and loves and use them in such a positive way that promotes really important messages like diversity and acceptance and teamwork and all of these other fantastic themes that we see running through this whole series. Because this is the final installment in the series, we have a lot of different characters and stories that we are following. We have our 8 main characters with the 4 heroines and their 4 heroes. We have Aiko, we have Queen Lavanna, and so there's a lot that is happening in this book, and we're following so many different situations and scenarios as the characters are split up into different groups at various points in the story. And with a huge ensemble cast like this, it can be really difficult to not lose your reader or to neglect these people for too long and all sorts of things, but I feel that Marissa Meyer did a fantastic job managing her whole cast. There were certainly moments where I would be reading about a particular grouping of characters and we would end a chapter and we'd jump to someone else and what was going on with them, and I would go, but I want to know what happens. But on the whole, I think she did a really fantastic job of driving the story forward for all of the characters. This book is pretty long, it's over 800 pages, and I've seen some other reviews where people said that they felt like the story dragged on at points, or it was too long, or a combination thereof, and all these things, but I did not feel that way at all. I thought it was really well paced. The story never dragged at any point, even though we were jumping back and forth between all of these different character point of views. I feel like it was the perfect length to build up to this huge climactic ending to the series that we've been waiting for 4 books now, but then she also gave us the perfect amount of resolution for all of our characters. I really felt satisfied with the ending, knowing how everything turned out for all of the different characters that we have followed. When I finished the book, I was sad because it ended, because I love these characters and I've loved following their stories, but I didn't feel like there was anything missing necessarily. I felt very happy and pleased with how it all ended, and I loved how she wrapped up the story for each of the individual characters, and now I just want like side novels on all of their different adventures, especially Cress and Thorn. Like, I would just love to have side novels about the adventures that they go on post-war. One of those things though that I absolutely loved about this book is, like I've mentioned in previous reviews, how she pulls all of the individual elements of the fairy tales to the forefront. And I know that I've mentioned those are things that I appreciated about all 3 of the books before, but really my appreciation of those elements in Scarlet and Cress were more of a hindsight appreciation that came after I read Winter. Because when I was reading Cinder, the question of how was she going to bring all of these different elements of the fairy tales into the story was very much in the forefront of my mind. And I think that's largely because when I was reading Cinder, I was viewing it still very much as an adaptation of Cinderella. However, when I read Scarlet and Cress, I started to view it so much more as its own story. Yes, those stories were adaptations of Red Riding Hood and Rapunzel, but because of how their individual stories were starting to weave together and the story as a whole was just becoming more complex and intricate, I really started to see it as its own thing and wasn't so much thinking about the fact that these are adaptations of original fairy tales. Because I had that thought process while I was reading Scarlet and Cress, when I started reading Winter, I wasn't even thinking about all of the individual elements that come into play in the original Snow White story, like the evil queen telling the huntsman to go kill her and cut out her heart, and her eating the apple and all of this stuff. They weren't even in my brain at all until they popped up somehow in this story. And it just brought back that strong sense of appreciation that I had while reading Cinder for how Marissa Meyer has taken these stories that we know and love and infused them with all of their original moments that we know and love, but also crafted this complex and incredible story that is its own thing from it. Well, there you have it, friends. That is my review of Winter by Marissa Meyer, and that concludes my reviews of the entire Lunar Chronicles series. If you have read the series, I would love to hear your thoughts, so please let me know in the comments and we can discuss all of the wonderful things that we love about this fantastic world and series and characters and all of the just amazing things that Marissa Meyer created in the Lunar Chronicles. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye! What we're not already aware is blah. Cinderella blah. The first 3 books in this blah, blah, blah. Like my previous reviews for what is the name of the book? Yes. As CINDER, as very much a character-driven and how this book is pretty long. It's over